Billy Lavender with Texas High, and Jay Davis with the Pleasant Grove Hawks.
It's a good crisp morning. Perfect weather for football.
Man, it's football season, isn't it?
And got a lot of district play that's been going on the last week or so, and got a couple teams that are playing their first district match this week. So it's starting to get real.
Well, it was so chilly outside, I had to put a text line hoodie over my Hugh Springs shirt here.
Oh. I thought that was SMU, that deal, but that's.
This is the Hugh Springs Mustangs.
Well, we're gonna assume that he's just rooting for the SMU since they're doing so well this year.
They are doing good.
SMU is actually, a couple people's got them ranked in their top 10. You know, they're only about 23 or 24 in the real poll, but a lot of folks are saying they're a real sleeper for the playoffs. And they are led by a former Razorback, Rhett Lashley.
Well, they were definitely ahead of their time. They were doing NIL before NIL was
That's
even
exactly right.
So.
That's exactly
Well,
right.
it just set them back about 30 years, so they should have, held up.
They were making TV shows about them before TV shows were popular about football teams.
That's right.
That's the best. The Pony Excess is the best 30 for 30 movie made by ESPN. I bet I've watched it 10 times.
I don't know that the Randy Moss one's pretty good. Randy Moss one, where he came from in West Virginia and all, that's a pretty good one too.
I like that one as well, but I'm probably going to miss that one.
No, actually, I've
I heard it's killer.
Yeah, definitely is.
Aaron Hernandez
Among
has
other
been said.
things. Well, let's move on to our players of the week here. With Friday Night Lights, we had on offense Trip Basinger of the Liberty Ilo Leopards. He had 241 passing yards and 4 total touchdowns. Shout out to Trip.
Has he won that before this year?
Probably 3 times.
Okay.
And then on defense, we got Avion Golston. A monster night against Tatum, 15 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, and 2 forced fumbles.
Big.
Yeah, solid week on the defensive side for him, and he's had quite a few accolades from his coaches, and was recognized by the Gazette this week as well. So, kudos to him. Did want to bring up game day was a little bit different on the offensive side. Want to give a shout out to Knox Pilgreen. Had a pretty instrumental evening this past Friday with 3 receptions with 111 yards receiving. And scored twice.
2 touchdowns, but I'll tell you what, in my eyes, he actually scored 3. He kind of reached the ball on, I think it may have been a 10 or 15-yard pass that he took another 5 or 6 yards with about 6 guys on him, and then a guy spears him after he's down for about 5 seconds. But I thought he kind of reached the ball across the goal line, so they stripped him of one of his touchdowns, so he should have had 3 TDs. That's a kid that I've talked about this week that has kind of been unselfish this whole year because he hadn't gotten a lot of targets. He's getting maybe 1 target a game, but after talking to Coach Stanford and Coach Toon, they're trying to work him in the offense and add a little bit. And he's been blocking really, really well and doing his job all year, but he can do both. He can stretch the field with his speed, and he is a strong, strong, strong cat.
And if you want to catch that play that Billy's talking about, there is a reel on Texas County Game Day that you can go watch. It's the play that Billy's talking about. I don't know who was actually there filming that, but it was up close and personal. And you just really get to see how strong Knox is. Mm-hmm. He catches the ball, 2 or 3 defenders on him to begin with. Mm-hmm. He keeps going towards the goal line. And like you say, some could say that he stretched it out there. Some could say he didn't.
That's right.
But hey, I tell you what, he didn't lack no effort on that.
No. He, you always want to score, but when you get down near that goal line, try to get that ball out. And I thought as they spun him around, he did. But it's Javari Johnson didn't mind because next play he took it.
Oh,
in.
he
So
sure did. Right.
It's those running backs get those cheap ones every now and then. So
yeah, but those ruin your average though. Your average carry.
That's true. That's exactly right.
Well, if Old Knox would have got credit for that touchdown, that would have been 3 catches, 3 touchdowns,
and 3 targets, I believe.
And still 2 out of 3 for touchdowns isn't bad.
Almost sounds like an old saying.
That's right. Meatloaf.
Amazing.
2 out of 3 ain't bad. Well, let's move right on down here to our game of the week.
Well, might as well just keep on talking what we're talking then.
Who is the game of the week?
I've got to look here.
New Boston and DeKalb.
That's it right there.
Okay.
New Boston and DeKalb. I was having an old man moment there.
That's okay.
Well, anyway, this DeKalb team has emerged as the favorite in that District 10. They go to Dangerfield last week and beat Dangerfield 30-28. Dangerfield's having a tough year, but I think come playoff time they'll kind of right the ship. But you got Jalen White at quarterback. You've got Caden Weary at running back, and then you've got Walker Madison at receiver, and those three have put up some monster numbers this year.
I think this is going to be a game right here. I think this is going to be a game. I just have a sneaky feeling.
Well, you may be right and I may be wrong, but I'm thinking this is a 20-point difference.
I think New Boston is probably going to struggle scoring against DeKalb, and in order for New Boston to keep the game close, they're going to have to play on all phases of the game and no weaknesses. Special teams is going to have to step up, but when you've got Ashton Rowden, to be able to hand the ball off to, that's not a bad option to be able to go to. But I think in order for New Boston to win, they're gonna have to score at least 35 to be able to beat DeKalb.
They're going to have to lean on Rowden, and Rowden's going to have to be up there at that 5 to 6 yards of carry average, and he's got to be the guy, and he's going to have to probably carry it 30 times because DeKalb has too many weapons. New Boston, they got some players, but they do not have the weapons on the outside like DeKalb does. And, Rowden's every bit as good as Weary, but there's just a little bit more talent at the quarterback position and receiver position for DeKalb.
Well, and you've got DeKalb, you mentioned Madison, but Kobe Spurgeon is right there with 4 TDs. And so, Jalen White's got a couple of options out there. He's already got 11 TDs thrown. And he can do it on the ground. He's got 8 on the ground. So, he's got right at almost 1,400 yards total, passing and rushing. So, solid athlete on the DeKalb Bear side, and I've got DeKalb pulling this one out.
And you got Keywan Neal on that defense, anchoring that defense for DeKalb too. He is a very, very good player.
So it's my turn to talk about this. Since you done put all your personal opinions and all on this. Ben says that DeKalb. Ben's over here talking about DeKalb is the what'd you say right when you first started? The favorite of the district.
They're the front runner.
That's your personal opinion. They are not the favorite of the district.
Well,
They've never been the favorite of the district.
Who is?
I'm going to have to say Hooks.
Yeah. Okay.
Hooks. That's what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
You
got yours.
Hooks still has to beat Dangerfield, though. I think Hooks has a chance, but DeKalb's solid. People just don't go to Dangerfield and win.
They just don't.
They don't.
Okay.
Hooks will, right?
Well, and we're going there. So
there you go.
Anyway, so back to the DeKalb New Boston rivalry. Man, I want to say this is one of the oldest in the state of Texas.
And that's why I say it's going to be a good game.
and there is a lot of history there. And a lot of people don't know the first game they ever played was for the team colors. I think we talked about this last year. They both wanted black and orange. And so the first game that they ever played was for whoever won got the black and orange.
Wow.
So DeKalb won. That's why they ended up black and orange, and then New Boston ended up maroon and yellow. There's a little history behind that. And I was talking to one of the local guys named Jeff Lee. He's kind of like their he's like you for DeKalb, Billy, or me for Hooks, or Jay for Pleasant Grove. He's their guy. He's their fan. He does a lot with their kids, and he says in the downtown library, if you ever had a chance, they have a book that's got pictures that date back, and it talks about the rivalry from when it started all the way back. So if you really wanted to know some deep knowledge about that, you can always look into that. But back to the football game. I know if any of y'all seen on Facebook, I'm friends with a lot of people from New Boston and DeKalb. The kids have been heckling each other back all week. I think they have done some little toilet paper and stuff to to the line, and they went over to the DeKalb Stadium, threw some toilet paper on their stadium.
I like that kind of stuff. I
Yeah,
like a
so
little rivalry.
The
too.
line got spray painted orange.
Well, that was like 4 or 5 years ago when that
What's your
happened.
new address, Billy?
No. I don't like that kind of stuff.
So-
I took all the trees out of mine.
So that that it still kind of lives a little bit, with the heckling of the kids and going back and forth and all that. So, I expect a fun game. It's going to be a big atmosphere. Both towns will show up. Now to the football game, I do think DeKalb is the tougher team coming in. But you never know in a rivalry, anything can happen. People play with high spirits and accidents happen. Turnovers happen. DeKalb, they've had a problem with turning the ball over early in the game. Dangerfield went up on them 14-0. And kudos to DeKalb, man. They stick to their game plan. They fought back and come back and won that game. But turnovers have plagued them a little bit. So New Boston sees that on film and they look for that. So I will go ahead and make my prediction pick.
Tell us.
I got DeKalb probably by 2 touchdowns,
Okay.
but it will be a good game.
Well, let's go back to this DeKalb, and Buddy didn't like my comment saying they appeared to be the favorite. Here's the thing: they got one loss. They got a 5-6 point loss to Jefferson. We know what Jefferson is, and that's no slide at Dangerfield. It's no slide at Hooks. That's being objective. Hooks, they played Queen City a couple weeks ago, played a close game. At this point, I'm not saying Hooks cannot beat them because it's down to Hooks and DeKalb now with Dangerfield taking that loss last week. But you've got to give DeKalb credit where credit is due. They've went out, they've won all their games. They go win a big district game at Dangerfield. And they played Jefferson tough, which Jefferson's ranked number 2, even ahead of Pleasant Grove in our rankings here. Jefferson has some players. Ty Taylor has that thing rolling. Nobody's slighting anybody. I'm just being objective that right now the body of work for DeKalb looks better than anybody in district. Does that make sense, buddy?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, your personal opinion, sure.
Well, I mean, if, I'm just looking at, the close game with Queen City. I'm looking at their close loss with Jefferson. That's what I'm saying. If Hooks comes out and beats them, I'm not surprised. But I've got to give DeKalb the credit so far with what they've done.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, DeKalb, they've played a tough season. They've, just like the interview with their coach the other night, that's you can also catch on Texas County Game Day. The kids stick to the plan. They get them over on the sideline and say, "Hey guys, let's don't self-destruct. Stick to the game plan," and they do, and it works. And they they pulled out a big win last week.
And honestly, looking at some of the kids they lost from last year, I would have thought DeKalb would have been down from last year, and they weren't a bad team last year, but they weren't a great team. But somehow they have stepped it up and went the right way. Well, let's move right on down to Marshall at Texas High. Billy might know a little bit about this game.
Big district matchup. Every time these two get together, I know that everybody has Texas High favored by a lot. This game can always sneak up on you if you're a heavy favorite because these two teams, there's no love lost when they get together, and I think this is, especially this year, it's Marshall's. It's their Super Bowl. It's going to be in our district. It's going to be every team's Super Bowl, and it's just one of those deals. If you're Texas High, you got to go out and be you. You're not trying to do something that the other team doesn't know you're going to do or anything like that. You're just going out and trying to execute every week right now, and I think this is one. It's one of those games that'll be heavily attended. It's a home game. Usually a lot of hoopla around it, but it's getting to, you kind of want these games because, or these district games like this, if you're a fan or if you're a player or if you're a parent, because a lot of people are getting in these games, and there's a lot of kids producing when they get in, and it's fun to see. We've talked about this, or I've talked about this a lot. I've seen this in Pleasant Grove over the years, is they're beating up everybody pretty bad, so second half they're getting these sophomores and freshmen in, and getting them some touchdowns and some touches, and keeping everybody happy. But Texas High is seeing some of that this year. But it's no fun when you're up in the booth calling these games, right, Jay? It's
Whoa, Billy, hold on. How can you say it's no fun?
Well,
listening to you sound.
No, I mean it's. I mean, I get excited when there's a touchdown or whatever, but you lose like. The professional booth people like Jay and Matt that are in there, they've got a lot of filler stuff. They got iPads and a lot of stuff in their head or whatever. A lot of my filler stuff I can't say on the air or whatever. So
I know you.
Jeremy and I are karaokeing and.
Well, hold on. So Jeremy, he'll cover for you.
Yeah.
And then you're over there asking for forgiveness.
Yeah.
And I've heard you ask for it before.
That's right. I've had to. I get excited.
But hey, if you watch the games, and I have watched, I think every one but one, if you can't get excited watching Texas High play, listening to Billy Lavender, Tiger Billy, then there's something wrong with you.
Well, it's fun. I just you want to, and we've had. We played some teams early and been in some games, especially the first half, but as far as lately and what we think is coming down through the next few, it's just not going to be, shouldn't be close. And no, I do like it, and the kids like it. Everybody wants to score and stuff, but when you're T-Ball and Javari and David J and Knox and all these guys, Cam Reitner. You want to play 4 quarters. I mean, you're practicing all week, but it gives these other guys a chance that are practicing just as hard, just as long. Gives them a chance to get in. Ahmad Moore and.
Speaking of him,
what grade is he?
He is a junior.
Yeah, was going to talk about him. Just think of the depth Texas High has right now. I mean, for him to just step in there, and you probably know more than me. Before last week, how many snaps you think he had a game?
A game, probably, I'd say probably averaged 6.
Right. So, I mean, that just shows you his athletic ability, how hard he practices. Being that right there shows you that he's a exceptional teammate. To be a number 2. And behind somebody, and still put in the work, be part of the team, and to come in and do what he did, man, that right there just deserves.
Well, and that just proves that defense is being tested throughout the week,
right?
Because if he's the feature back on the 2s playing the 1s, I mean they're getting pressed all week long, and. You got to know that defense just sort of grins whenever he goes into the game, because they're fixing to get what we got all week.
And the thing is we don't talk about it, but T-Ball comes over and gets a lot of snaps at running back after Javari. So really Ahmad's coming in as the 3rd back, and I'm telling you, everybody that we've played so far and will play probably the rest of the year, Ahmad starts for. There is no question. I mean, he is that. He's magic when he touches the ball.
Right.
And here's the other thing that's even more scary. Guess who was a 4-star running back that don't even play offense for him? Darnell Williams. Darnell Williams, was at one time committed to Ole Miss, 4-star, was going as a running back. Now he's a defensive back. So it's unbelievable the depth they have. People, I don't think they understand the caliber athletes and how deep it goes.
And we talk. It's hard not to talk about Texas High's offense, because that's where you feel. That's where that's where a lot of the highlights are coming from. But there's a lot of highlights coming from defense. But it leaves that defense that's really ginning right now, and and playing strong, and you take Coach Hawkins and Coach Jordan and Coach Wilson, you you take those front four and then the linebackers and then the DBs, and at all levels they're playing tough, and our corners are playing up on people, playing physical, and then you got the safeties back. You got my man Roman White out there that I call the playmaker, and got Darnell Williams back, and he brings a pain every week. Without Alex Jones right now, but he'll be back, and it feels good right now.
Well, they're one of the few teams that has a 30-point spread in how many points they're scoring versus how many points they're allowing. And the Marshall Mavericks, if you start looking at them on paper, they're one-dimensional. They're a run team, and that front of the Texas High defense, they're probably going to make this a real tough game for the Mavericks. And I think it was 2 years ago was the last time that this game was close. Mm-hmm. And so I think that this is going to be a game where the coaches can truly critique their team in the first and second quarter to make them better, because there's going to be a lot of new names playing in the second half.
This will be the toughest district game, in my opinion, that Texas High will face, and they're still supposed to win by 30 points. But
Max Prep has them in the top 10. They have Marshall number 8, so they're not going to lay down for sure.
And like we've said, for the past couple of weeks, everybody, this is like their, I don't want to say state championship, but pretty close to it. When you play Texas High and the way that Texas High has been playing, this is who you want to beat. And that would, if you defeat them, then that's something you can look back and say, we beat Texas High that year.
And Marshall being 60, 70 miles away, it's been a little rivalry over the years, and I can remember one of my first games going to at Marshall with Texas High. I remember they were talking about Marshall all off season. Their shirts were beat Texas High. That's every time they got together. That was their deal, and so it's they're not coming like Ben said, they're not coming to roll over.
Well, David J. is 6 games into the season and is yet to throw an interception. Mm-hmm. But lurking in the defensive backfield is Damian Smith, who's got 3 interceptions. So, I don't think it's going to be a walk in the park.
That's right.
Because, like you said, they're going to come to play. But it's going to come down to, the Marshall Mavericks defense. They've got a stud, Landon Jones. He's already got 50 tackles. So that first half, I think, is going to be a good matchup. I just think, second half is going to be too much for Marshall.
Well, let's move right down the list here to the Pleasant Grove Hawks travel over to Paris and Lamar County to play North Lamar.
Now, before we go there, we got Mr. Delk.
Yeah.
Now has the school record, 47-yard field goal.
Man with the golden leg.
He's 4 for 4
golden
with field
leg.
goals. So shout out to him, and it's going to be fun to be on his backside for the rest of the season.
Here's the thing: is Texas High, we've talked about, is playing good in all facets of the game, but their kicking game. Here's another thing that kind of went unnoticed for the last 2 games. Now, 2 games ago, he was going to be our punter, was Knox Pilgreen. But we didn't have to punt. And this past week, we punted once, and he kicked about a 65, 70-yarder, but you could hear it in the booth behind the glass when it hit his foot. It was really cool. But anyway, talking about Mr. Delk, that kid has a leg, Jack, and a 47-yarder. And 47-yarder is tough in high school, but this was 1 second on the play clock. Everything out there, Jenin worked and just boomed it through, and we went nutso in the booth. And but you talk to him. he makes 60-yarders in practice sometimes. He can flat kick a football.
Yeah, that's I don't know. I've sat up here and said this for the past 2 weeks. At what part of the game is Texas High bad at? And so,
Losing.
well, you just thought, how many times? I mean, just be honest. I mean, how many times have they punted this year? Have they had to been in a punting situation?
Not a
Very
whole lot.
few, very few. And that's a great feeling. I mean, and that just goes back to the kids of just how much they put in and how hard they work and man, the coaches can't do nothing but go to sleep with a smile on their face. Knowing that they got the caliber kids they got this year and how the team's playing and how they gel. And, I mean, it's just everything is clicking on 100 over there.
Well, getting back on Pleasant Grove, both Pleasant Grove and North Lamar are coming off buys, so they had a little extra week to put some more things into their toolbox. But I will say, last year it was 56-6, PG win, and then the 3 years before that it was 55-0, 60-0, and 56-0. So if trends are out there, this game should be over early, but. We don't just play the games on paper.
That's right.
Corbin Blease, quarterback for North Lamar, stud, 860 yards passing, 10 TDs. I've been surprised. I believe Pleasant Grove only have 2 interceptions, but Blease has thrown 5, so this could be a game where maybe that stat increases a little bit. But Blease has 3 targets that already have 170 yards or more receiving. I think the defensive backs are going to be tested and more like they're going to have opportunities. But this game is going to be down to, what are you doing right, what are you doing wrong, and what can we do better the next week. I don't think the win or loss is going to be questioned. I think PG wins this one.
I think PG would have, if they were selecting, would have had their bye a little bit later in the season. I think they're getting better every week. I think Coach Gibson has noticed that, and I think they're hot right now, and I think they probably wanted to continue that, but you're giving them another week. You gave them another week off to put some more stuff in to that offense, and it just keeps getting better and better and better. I think Halter's coming into his zone, and receivers are playing well, and line's starting to protect a little bit better. And man, I think it's just one of those deals where there's going to be a matchup that's going to come down here in a few weeks, and it's going to be a good one.
Well, North Lamar, this is their first year away from the option tech. They moved to the spread. That's why you're seeing some of the passing numbers. And last year, and even the year before, we always blew them out. But there was times, they would turn it over or whatever. But we couldn't get off the field at times. You know what I'm talking about, Jay? Because they ran the quirky, it's not even RPO. It's just a real option game. Not a lot of passing. But they've changed it now. I don't, hopefully, PG just goes in there, gets the win, stays healthy, And, we talk about PG moving from the wing tee back to the spread. A lot of people are like, holy cow, why? But it's really paid dividends because –
And you can't it doesn't happen overnight. So it's just they're getting more comfortable every week, and that's what I'm seeing on film.
But you've got guys, Camden Harris, he's new to PG. Spencer Browning sat out last year. He had played before. And Lance. You've got 3 guys there that are absolute matchup nightmares. The 2 kids on the outside are, they can fly and they're big. Then Lance, we know Lance. Those 3 guys there, what that does is open up for the kids in the backfield a lot better. When we first went into this, and even, at Paris when we lost, when we were still in the wing tee, we were almost one-dimensional. And it's really kind of amazing to me how fast this thing's turned on and Halter's turned into this dude. But PG, they just need to get through this week, next week Spring Hill, then it's the Gilmer game.
Well, I'm going to argue turning into a dude. He's been a dude, but he's had some great success the past 3 weeks.
But I mean, what I'm saying is he looked like a different player the last 3 weeks. I mean, I mean, looks like an all-state top caliber quarterback. I mean, putting it where it's got to be, and he's got all those guys that he can throw to.
And I'll tell you something that really is amazing. When you talk about changing your offense after the season's already started, you know, it makes you one thing. Oh man, that's going to be a big hit. But no, they really embraced it, put in the work. Of course, what's their slogan?
Full tilt.
Full tilt, all that stuff. So, I mean, the kids are in it. They buy into it, and they've made it work. And like you said, when they first went back to it, Halter was a little sluggish at first, but it seems like the more games, he came into himself. And, and it's good to have good targets like Spencer Browning to throw to and Lance, So, Lance is hard to miss when you throw to him.
Bam had to sit out the Dangerfield game, and although we won that game easily, we didn't look super hot on offense. We were kind of hit and miss, but it all came together when Bam Harris is on one side, Spencer Browning's on one side, and you got Lance Jackson at tight end. Then you got Nick or Jay Rich or Brody in the backfield. That's just too many weapons. It's really come together, and I don't want to overlook the next two games, but I'm so excited for Gilmer.
I'd like to know
Is that at PG?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to know what Spencer Browning's 40 time is.
Here's what I tell you his 40 time is. It all depends on who's chasing him, because he's just going to beat anybody. So it may not be as fast as he can run if it's just him, but that cat's a competitor.
And when you see him run a go route on film, if they're zoomed in, the camera can't keep up with him. So you got to zoom out so you just get the whole field view.
PG calls that a went route because he done gone.
Well, in Spencer's one of those athletes where once he puts the pads on, he's still able to maintain his speed. You've got a lot of folks out there that they can run a quick 40. But you start putting them in the armor, and they start losing some tenths of a second. And Spencer hangs on to his, and you can see it on the field.
Oh, he flies for sure.
You look at Spencer. Spencer's 6'2", 195 pounds. He's running a sub 4.5. You've got Bam Harris, who's 6'4", 175 pounds. He's running a sub 4.5. I mean, that's big time speed at the 5A level. The 4A level is dirty. I'll argue that as good as last year's team was, this receiving core is more dynamic than last year's.
Yeah, no argument there.
And I think we're finding that out. I didn't know that going into the season. Even talking with Ben before, what his predictions or what he thought the team would look like. And the more the weeks click off, you're seeing this dynamic receiving crew come out. And I think it's really going to work in their favor as they even keep going farther.
And this will be Bam Harris's third game. And I think what's Bam got, about 190 yards receiving?
175.
175 yards in the last two games.
125, sorry. He's averaging almost 18 yards.
And
three TDs on 7 receptions. So he's a very efficient wide receiver.
But he is, honestly, he kind of changed the trajectory of this team. Not that we're going to be bad, but going to Kilgore, what he brought to the table allowed us just to continually beat them on the outside. And then, we could run the ball with that being said too. So,
but, also talk about this too, and Jay can probably elaborate on even more, and Ben too. Being able to grind the football down the field too, with the running back core that they got and the offensive line, 4 or 5 yards a pop, tough running right up the middle, and every 3 plays you get you a first down, so don't forget about them guys. It's not just the receivers doing it. You got some running backs, and then you also got them running backs. They'll get out. Jay Rich and what's the other one's name? My mind went blank.
Bells.
Them dudes get loose, and they're off to the races. you know. So
Whereas Brody's looking for someone to run over.
yeah. The Watt
It
kid,
is 6 yards.
the Watt kid, he's looking at whoever gets in his way. He's going to try to run him over and get his 4, 5, 6 yards. But different kind of running back. But hey, every team needs both of them, and they got them.
And we're talking all about this offense.
That's
but,
what I was
but,
going to say. Defense is
the defense
Yeah.
is dirty.
Yeah.
Dirty.
they've been there all year.
Well, we've known that.
Yeah.
We've known that. That's been no secret. I mean, nobody wants to run to Lance's side, and then you got your middle that's just being dominated by Bari. And I mean,
And there's a couple of young kids that get lost in the mix here on that D line. You've got Keedron Smith, which his sister is Samaya Smith at LSU.
Mm-hmm.
That kid, he's a freshman, and he's already about 6'3", playing defensive end. He'll be a Division I player before it's all said and done. Then you got DeCorey Cranford, who's the sophomore that already has the UTSA offer. I mean, it's kind of sick how deep that defensive line is. And then you got Zion. What's Zion's last name?
You're going to get me in trouble now. Lewis.
Zion Lewis, another kid on that D-line that people forget about but are very, very good.
Well, you've got B.J. Rochelle. He's already got 4 sacks. And then Lance Jackson is just having an incredible season. He's getting double and triple teamed most every play. He's got 6 sacks, 10 tackles for loss, and 25 solo tackles. And it's just, getting in there and just keeping it ugly. And
Putting up those numbers with, like you say, all those guys. I mean, people are keying on him.
Yeah.
People are double teaming and stuff like that, and he keeps putting those numbers up.
And I mean, his ability to disrupt a play, because even when he doesn't get to the quarterback, his hands are up and is causing the quarterback to throw in lanes that is not there. And I mean, there have been a lot of passes that have just been at the feet of players just because they didn't have a window to be able to throw to. And but yeah, that defensive line and getting great play out of linebackers as well. And it's making the defensive backs look really, really good, and they are. So it's just a total package on that defensive side.
And another kid that just does not get enough accolades, there's just so many gets lost in the mix. James Solomon at safety and Jaden Scales back there. They're very, very good. They play almost every snap back there. They're not busting coverages. They're doing their jobs. And then, of course, you got Buck and Landon at linebacker that are very, very good.
Well, Jaden Scales has been pretty impressive to me just with the open field tackling that he's making. Because typically, if he's the one making the tackle, he's the last one.
Right.
And so I believe, just double check, I mean, he's got 15 solo tackles. And, I mean, when you got a defensive back, making 15 solo tackles. And, I mean, like I said, he's being able to break down and bring those players down and definitely changing it out. And, I mean, Solomon's got 8. And, I mean, he's definitely multifaceted. You see him on the offensive side. You see him punting. And I mean, he's been asked to do a lot this year and been doing a good job back there on the defensive side.
Well, let's move right on down the line to a big game. Hugh Springs will travel to Hooks this week.
Is Hugh Spring a homeschool this year too?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
They're going to be after this week, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I got Hooks.
Cass County Christian.
No, it's Hooks' homecoming. Every day's been some crazy spirit day at school. Kids are hyped up. They know what's going on. Coming off a big win off of the filler game that we had last week from the Oklahoma City team.
What was the score of that game?
53-7.
I predicted
That's about-
61 to
I was
nothing.
fixing to
I
say, that was
53-6.
pretty close.
I can't remember if they made that field goal. But
So, what kind of athletes did they have?
man, I'm gonna be honest with you. People kind of joked coming into it. Was this gonna be like a second coming of Bishop Sycamore? But they actually rolled in on a big charter bus.
Huh.
They all had matching uniforms. They had some pretty good sized kids.
Yeah.
I don't. And one thing I can say about, they played about 4 different quarterbacks through the whole game.
It's kind of odd.
Yeah, it's like I don't know if they could figure out who they wanted to be the starter or all 4 of their dads coached. I don't know. Because they were a homeschooled organization, however they formed their team.
Well, these are popping up. It sounds weird, but if you research it, they're popping up all over the place. I think Little Rock's got one. Northwest Arkansas may have one. They're real big in Missouri and Kansas.
Hey, they showed up on scene and they looked like a real high school team there. I mean, it wasn't, I guess my expectations was like, how are they going to show up? Are they going to all show up with their parents or whatever? No, they came in on a bus.
Yeah.
All had matching uniforms, helmets, socks, everything. I mean, it was legit looking. Looked like a real school, about the same size as Hooks, about the same number of kids. I don't think they were coached very well. But, it was a filler game that we had to fill. After our schedule, we had a hole in it. But
I think Hooks needed that game. I think you got
we
some,
did.
You get a little of that. You get a little of that. What we call that big C, that confidence, and you don't. Sometimes it's good for teams to have a really tough slobber knocking game that in non-district or whatever. But I think Hooks needed this game, and it may project them or. Into the rest of the season. I think it may be
Well, anytime that you have 47 unanswered points, you've got to appreciate that from the offensive side and the efficiency that they're having. And Birdwell continues to be able to lead them in quarterback. 200 plus yards, and I think he had 4 touchdowns that he accounted for, passing and rushing. So I think that they're ginning. For me, just to play devil's advocate, Hooks beat Queen City by 1, and Hugh Springs beat Queen City by 6. So
it was that was a 6 overtime
and
game.
it was overtime.
And here's
Just
the deal.
to pick on you, buddy.
Even though I'm supporting Hugh Springs today with the shirt,
You better support them because hey, there are some citizens over there that want. If I gave them your address, they would burn your house down.
Yeah, but here's the deal: for the 4 or 5 that really don't like me, I've had literally 15 people from Hugh Springs, mentioned it last week, message me and say, these people are crazy. And we appreciate what you're doing, but lots of great people over there, lots and lots of great people. Even this week. It's crazy. And I called Buddy the other day, and I'm like, man, I don't know what Pigskin Prep's thinking. I'm like, they got y'all as a 34-point favorite over Hugh Springs. And I'm like,
because they know what's up, Ben. That's why.
I said, well,
y'all are only averaging 32 points a game, and you're a 34-point.
Heck yeah, man. I mean, they're legit. They do this weekly.
But even Buddy was like, yeah, I think that's a lot. Okay, well, let's fast forward 20 minutes. Well, I get on there on the Friday Night Lights, and there's this guy. He's like, the only reason it's like this is because they're taking jabs at Hugh Springs for what happened 2 weeks ago. And I'm like, I don't know how many times I have to say this. We're the media. Mm-hmm. We report. We don't tweak it. We don't do anything. We report it. And then his comeback was, well, I wasn't talking about you. And I'm like, no, you absolutely were talking about me.
And the funny thing about it is
he said he thought Buddy was the one making the spread.
And the funny thing about it is, as many times as you could tell some of these people, they put it out there that, hey, all this stuff comes from Pigskin Preps. And I don't even know who runs Pigskin Preps. But anyway.
Ben?
Yeah, Ben is background Pigskin Preps.
Because his wife personally called me and said, your payment didn't go through. And I'm like, I said, yeah, I lost my car. And she's like, well, I just need it. And I said, so how many people are working there? Well, me and my husband, a couple more. And I mean, they have so much data.
Wow.
I mean, pigskinprep.com is an awesome website.
So I finally just started telling people, hey, they ain't listening when you tell them that it comes from Pigskin Preps. So I just tell them, hey, Ben makes all that stuff up. I said, that's Ben Watt. That's Ben Watt's personal opinions, and that's what Ben's putting out there. Hey, and I'm going to tell you something. And them people will run with that. And like I said earlier, there's a few of them that would buy the address to Ben's house just so they could go over there.
Well, I hope they're watching because we all know Buddy's the one that made the 34-point difference. Well, anyway, let's look at Hugh Springs here at their players. You got E.J. Searcy and Tanner Westmoreland, two really good players playing some running back and linebacker. Hugh Springs 4-2 on the year. You know how many games Hugh Springs won last year? 0.
Yeah, they went 0-10.
0-10. But Blake Worley, and we go back to this, how
AG
this
coaching
coaching
tree.
sprawl. Blake Worley, went over to Winsboro's assistant for a while, coached some baseball. Now he's circled back around. He's really turned around Hugh Springs. And you look at the Gibson coaching tree right now. You've got a great success story going on at Hugh Springs. I think they're coming. I think their goal's the playoffs this year. But then let's move down there to Jefferson, down to the Swamp. You got Ty Taylor. They've got him undefeated. They've got him ranked in the top 10. They legitimately have a chance at 3A Division II. You got Cameron Williams, the UNLV commit. And here's the irony about Cameron Williams. Cameron Williams had big-time offers, Michigan, Texas Tech. But he chose to go play for Barry Odom out there in Las Vegas.
Cameron Johns says Worley got us right. So,
hey, Worley's got it going on. I don't think, Hugh Springs is going to come out and win district this year. But what you do is you go make the playoffs, win a game. Come back next year.
And I can say this.
That year.
And I'm a Hooks guy, but I'm just going to go and tell you this because, you get curious about things sometimes, right? So I reached out to some people that I know in Dangerfield that knew some people in Hugh Springs, just legitimate talk. And I was like, hey, guys, man, you went, what happened last year? What self-destructed? And I don't remember the coach's name that they had there last year. He came in with his new plan that was supposed to be whatever, and the kids never bought in. He changed up a lot of stuff. And one of the things that they pointed out to me, which I thought was odd, is if you've ever been to Hugh Springs, their football field, their football players come out of their field house and go down in front of the press box and they enter the field through the center of the bleachers. Almost like a Clemson deal, the way Clemson comes down thing. And they used to play Thunderstruck, the song. And it's kind of intimidating, And I always thought that was cool because, each school's got their own thing. Well, I was talking to that person last year, and they said, yeah, this new coach come in here, and he totally changed that, and our kids don't do it. And then some of the kids were like, hey, I've been waiting 4 years to get up here and do this my senior year and walk down there, and you're taking it away from us. We're done, So I think getting him gone, getting Coach Worley back in there, putting back in some old traditions, and, whatever his new stuff is for the kids has really worked because, they've turned it around from 0-10 to either losing some close games and winning some close games. So,
on the Hooks game here, I do think Hooks gets a win. But it's going to be a touchdown game. Touchdown or less, 5, 6, 7 points. Because I think Hugh Springs is a lot better than a lot of people think. I think Queen City is better than a lot of people think. And Hooks is a good team. But I do think it's going to be a close game.
There may be 80 to 85 total points scored in this game. I think it's going to be offense.
Shootout.
I mean, both defenses are giving up 20 plus points a game. And I mean, I think Hugh Springs is coming into this game with some confidence, though.
Oh, they can win.
They beat Queen City in overtime. You start looking at paper. Basically, a missed extra point. Would have put Hooks and Queen City into overtime as well. And so, I mean, I think Hugh Springs is coming into this with a lot more confidence than they have previous years against these Hooks Hornets. But I do think that Hooks, wins it.
Oh, I think they do too
in the end. But I mean, I'm impressed with what Worley's done, and kudos to what Hugh Springs has coming in for district this year.
Buddy,
I'm a Hook. Hooks is winning, bro. I mean, I ain't got much else to say about it. I mean, well, you knew I was going to say it.
they play the Cowboys. He's going to pick Hooks.
So I want to give a shout out to Romeo Mentor because I did not know what his stats were until I looked at him this week. On the defensive side, 37 total tackles, 14 for loss, 9 sacks, and 3 fumble recoveries.
That's RK.
And
RK.
and he's pretty salty on the offensive side too.
So, man, it's hard to explain RK. You know, RK is, you know, he
Romeo's his brother.
Romeo's his
Oh,
brother.
okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
RK is one of the probably, I would say, underrated kids around here. He did get an offer to McMurray State, I think it was. That's in El Paso. Is it McMurray or Murray State or whatever?
McMurray.
Is it Murray? Okay. And, you know, he's talked to some other schools too. Man, he's such a great kid. He's big. He's strong. He's physical. And the only thing about him is he's such a nice guy. You know, and I'm like, RK, you know, you see him out there just talking to the tackle over there. Hey, man, what's going on? You know, he's just such a nice kid. I'm like, hey, man, let's get a little mean here. And, you know, let's bump them stats up. But, no, he, like Jay said, man, he's kind of under the radar a little bit. Great kid. Plays hard, gives his all. And so he had his name wrong. You mentioned Romeo. His brother really had a breakout game last week. It was really him getting his feet on the ground on the offensive side of the ball. He had 2 receiving touchdowns. So look for him to, you know, get a little better this week too. But he had a little slower start to football. He had we had to go under some concussion protocol early in the year, hit his head. But yeah, so I'm picking Hooks.
By how many?
Ooh, man, you gonna put that on me?
At least one.
I'm saying 5. That's my prediction. 33-28.
33-28. Well, you know, my slogan is Hooks by 30. But you know, I ain't gonna say I'm not gonna no slide towards
I get
Houston.
that.
Some
Hey,
action on that.
Hey, let's double or nothing.
But no, I'm gonna stick with my Hornets. You know that we're gonna get the win. Our defense has been playing tough, and keeping us close in some games when our offense have struggled. But hey, I got a feeling we're gonna put it together, and you know, like my son said, we're gonna steamroll.
I want to know, buddy, where the alumni bonfire party is at Hooks, because I know that if Hooks is having homecoming, they're out drinking somewhere with all the people our age. And
Man, honestly, I don't know, man. I know the kids got some stuff planned, but and then
I
of
don't
course,
want
we got
that one. I want the old people party.
Oh man, I talked
But-
to you offline about that.
Buddy said they all quit drinking last night at 2.
Now, does Drake got him a date to homecoming?
Man, you gonna talk about? Man, my son gonna kill me up here talking about him like that. No, I don't think he's got him a date or anything to homecoming. But
He's smart.
man, he likes some Pleasant Grove girls. Man,
Well, who wouldn't? He's got good taste.
he
right?
does. He does.
Oh, Lord.
All right, so
We digress.
I'm just gonna stay quiet down here on my end.
Now, hey, how many tackles does Drake have? We'll get back. Let's
man, I don't know
Put some spotlight
I don't
on
know the
him.
total. I'd have to go to Max Preps and look. I know he had 5 last week with 1 tackle for loss, and he didn't get to play a whole lot because they played a lot of the younger kids and got them in there and got them in the mix. But you know, he's having a great year, and I can't just talk about him, man. Jasper Crane back there, Jam Jackson, man, all the linebacking core at Hooks, man, them kids they surprise me every week, man. They play hard.
20 total tackles, if Dad wants to know.
Oh, there we go. There we
Well,
go.
Buddy, Buddy sent me some highlights, and I mean, it's like he was in the backfield over and over and over. So kudos to Drake.
Yeah. But no, just that whole defense that they put in some hard work and you know, I always say, you know, on the Tunnel Crew has-beens, they always give away something free to a Hooks fan every week, you know, score prediction deal, and I always put on there's a disclaimer. If you say that Hooks is giving up more than 20 points, then you're automatically disqualified from the deal. So if you say the defense is giving up more than 20 points, you're out of the mix.
I guess I'm disqualified.
So
this
it's
week.
better
Yeah.
lower it to 19.
Yeah.
Well, let's move right down here to Murfreesboro at Derrick's. This is a big 1A game. Derrick's is ranked in the top 10. Murfreesboro last year, went 9-1 in the regular season, knocking off or 10-0. I'm sorry, they were 10-0. Mineral was 9-1, knocking off Mineral Springs in the last game of the season, 8-6. Derrick's comes in. They beat Lafayette County, and Lafayette County and Derrick's was supposed to be number 1 and 2 in the district. You got McLean Smith leading them at offense. Another kid I want to talk about is a good friend of mine's son, Lucas Allen. He's a 10th grader. He plays both sides of the ball in interior line. He's a sophomore, and he's going to be a beast. And his dad, Justin Allen, who is also he umpires, college baseball, is very, very well respected. He was a quarterback back in the early 2000s for Derrick's. But Malachi Sanders and Lathan Compton, for Murfreesboro, they're doing their thing, but I think ultimately Derrick's wins this game. Do you know Justin?
I don't think
You
so.
know Justin?
I may know him.
Well, I couldn't find that much on Murfreesboro in mine, but their defense is only giving up 16 points per game, and that's pretty salty. But you look across the ball, and Derrick's is only giving up 18. So this one is setting up to be a low scoring game, just with both defenses the way they are. But both teams have double headed running backs. Bubba Stinson and Brody Maroon for the Rattlers seem to be getting after it between the tackles, and Jordan Hill and Juan Salazar for Derrick's. I think it's going to be in the trenches. This game's probably going to be the first one that's done because I don't think there's going to be a lot of passing. But this one is going to be, I think, determining who is going to win their conference for sure.
Right. I still think you can't throw out Lafayette County down there. It's likely these two, but
Well, you seen what Rod Bailey did last week?
Rod Bailey.
For Lafayette County.
You're Rod Bailey?
He moved back.
No kidding. I did not know that.
It was in the Gazette. They did a big write-up about him. Shout out to Rod over there in Lafayette County.
Former Hooks Hornet.
Yeah, he's a former Hooks Hornet. He moved, not sure the dynamics of the deal, but he moved back to Lafayette County. And he had 5 total touchdowns, 277 yards on the ground. So shout out to Rod. He's a former Hooks Hornet. Wish we still had him, but.
And Lafayette County, up until last week, was ranked in the top 10 of, Arkansas 2A.
And what they are 2A, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Morgan just commented and weighed in and said, "Man, I can't believe that y'all hadn't." He's been watching the whole show and wanting us to talk more about the University of Arkansas Razorbacks. And
Well, we're saving the best for last.
okay, never mind. Sorry. Go ahead.
Well, anyway, I think Derrick's wins a close one, and just wanted to give, a couple teams there that does not get a lot of publicity on here, but they've done some great things. And also, just a shout-out Murfreesboro. That Mineral Springs and Murfreesboro game last year, the crowd, you couldn't stand. There wasn't a seat. There's not a better atmosphere than that game there in small Arkansas football anywhere, maybe ever. That was a magical game.
That's fun.
Kudos that small community. Now let's move into the game that matters most. The Messiah has returned us. We're moving the right way, Bobby. Travis Williams not bad, but
Yeah.
it's still Bobby.
Yeah. That's right.
What offense coordinator could get his quarterback hurt and figure out a way not to put the second string guy in a bad position and let him?
It's always
win the
fun.
game?
It's always fun to beat those orange teams with a big T.
I mean, they
Tennessee, right?
Right.
just
There's only one UT.
That's right.
And it's in Austin. They're
That's
still
right.
6-0.
Number one in the nation.
Had a little week off to rest and relax.
They got a small game ahead of them this week, though.
Yes, it's another homeschool out of Oklahoma that they're playing.
Hook said it was a Christian school.
No, this Oklahoma team ain't
No
Christian at all. Yeah,
Who
no.
They got a guy named Christian on the team, I
Is
think.
it
It's Sunners.
The Sunners,
I think it's
Bummer Son.
Yeah,
they're
something
like
that.
in Weatherford or something.
Mhm.
Well, that's a game there. I don't want to go on a dog leg and talk about a team that's not as important as Arkansas. But Texas does win that game going away. Oklahoma's bad.
I don't know, man. Here's the deal. I really believe Texas is going to win that game, but there's a lot of emotion that goes into that game too. So as bad as Oklahoma is, that emotion coming into that game is so high. You never know what's going to happen. And of course you've seen it before, where you think Texas should go in there and just whoop the fire out of them, and it ends up being a close game.
Before the Arkansas game, maybe a week, I'm going to get Sarkisian's address, and I'm sending him a case of Cuddy Sark. So maybe we can get him, back off the wagon, and get him
Easy now.
get him back on the booze.
Well, I'm going to be in the DFW area to do some tailgating, and if
Okay.
anybody has 4 tickets they're not using,
Send them to
they
Jay.
they
He
can,
deserves to go to that game. You got
But
it.
You can't just buy those tickets.
well, I
I
mean,
mean,
you
there's like
can.
101,000.
But I've also have I'm fortunate enough that both my daughters are going to be there, so
cool.
we're gonna have a little family
You're gonna have
celebration.
Nice.
Are y'all gonna? If you don't go to the game, just watch it on the TVs and the tailgate.
Yeah, we're gonna go hang out at a restaurant.
Cool.
My daughter's a graduate, so she's a Texas X, so we're gonna go hang out with the X's, and
Nice.
then after that, I'm gonna be sporting all of my burnt orange, walking through the great state fair.
Right.
And
Are you gonna get anything that's fried?
Buy me something fried and bring it
Something-
back. I'll eat it
something
the
like
day
that.
later.
Yeah.
I'll eat it a day later. I don't care.
so, but no, looking for a good weekend of high school and college football. Definitely. I was watching Arkansas and rooting for Arkansas. That was a fun game to watch, and just seeing all the different cell phone shots of people that were experiencing the game. And I think there were probably a lot of headaches the next day after experiencing Dixon Street.
I'll send you some from down on the field after.
Hey,
I got
so
some.
speaking of restaurant or bar or whatever, when Texas played Michigan, at first I thought these people were at the game, but they were at some restaurant.
Oh, it's sweet. I went by it.
Yeah, where was that at?
It's where Pop Stroke and a few other places are in the Colony. It is unbelievable when you look in. I mean, it's like when you sit down in this restaurant, it's like you are in the quarterback's helmet.
Yeah,
I mean,
so-
it's for. I don't know how they do it or whatever, but it's cool.
Well, when I first seen it, I thought, dang, them folks got some good seats at the game right there. I was like, shoot, they're right there by the ref, and then they can get hit with the ball.
it's unbelievable.
And then they were like, oh, it's a restaurant.
but they only do it for it's like an event.
right. Hey, that was a bad experience right there. It's awesome.
So, what type of other upsets are going to occur this week? Top 25 college teams.
Man.
That was crazy.
That was
That was a
wild.
bad-
Depending,
that was a
depending
crazy
on
last
which
weekend.
polls you were looking at, I think my count was 8 teams that were in the top 25 got beat this past week.
Well, I know Arkansas is not losing this week.
That's right. Thank goodness. We're starting to get some night games around there. I like that.
Hey, it's
Could
give
they
a little
possibly
respect.
flex that if it was a big game? That
Why is the Texas Arkansas game 11
no,
o'clock
they
That's-
game?
said it
That's
before
so
the year
stupid.
started. I
Well,
don't
maybe
know.
if Arkansas keeps winning, Texas keeps winning, it can be changed. But that 11 a.m. is just, I hate those games.
I know.
Hate
And
'em.
early in the season, those games are hot.
Oh, they're miserable. I hate them. Hate them.
Mm.
But, I tell you, talk about a team. I think a team's going down a bad road is Bama. Not just because of the loss, but the way Malachi Moore acted. And Kalen DeBoer comes out and says, well, he apologized. I'm not going to demote him. The kid acted a complete fool, and not one thing's done. This is the kind of stuff that gets that snowball rolling. Let Moore lose 3 games, and it's highly possible. Highly possible. They'll run him out of town.
I'll tell you what. There's a chink in the armor, and that's when those things happen, things start spinning, and you get to see true colors when someone loses, and hopefully that's not. Not gonna. I don't wish that on anybody, but man, now's the time to catch Bama.
The way they lost to Vanderbilt, they turned the ball over. They couldn't get off the field. I mean, when have you ever said that about Alabama? And Nick Saban would have sent Malachi Moore packing because he didn't tolerate that kind of stuff, and there's no recourse. It's a bad look, and I think that dude's in over his head. And Texas is back to number 1, so Jay's happy.
Yeah, but they keep throwing up the number 2. They were happier when they were number 2.
They
Right.
throw it up every week.
Well, here's the deal. I think
It's a long season.
I
It's a
don't.
long
That's
season.
exactly right.
I don't think Texas goes undefeated. I think they're going to lose a game somewhere. But that's the great thing about this new 12-team playoff. That one loss ain't that big a deal. You know.
Who they lose to, Ben?
Who do they lose to?
Arkansas at 11 a.m.
Probably Arkansas at 11 a.m. because nobody's going to be ready. But no, I'm not saying it's going to be Arkansas, but I think they lose a game just because it's such a gauntlet.
A&M.
That's
A&M could be a scary game.
And
A&M.
they do
that's
play.
that's the one. That's the one that's sort of. I'm not going to say concerning, but it's one that I'm looking at.
A&M's a pretty good.
And they're going to be in that A&M's atmosphere, too.
And here's the deal. I think A&M's pretty good, and we gift wrapped them a game, so I'm feeling pretty decent about the 4-2 Hogs.
My boss just texted and said, get to work.
All right. Hey, so.
Do you really?
No.
Hey, Donovan, what games are going to be live this week?
PG for sure, and Texas High for sure.
Okay. Hey, so, folks, if you're listening out there, hey, get out, support these young men, cheerleaders, band, everybody that puts, into these kids. If you can't get out to the games, tune in Texas County Game Day. Also on YouTube. So hit the subscribe button. That's a big deal. Hit the subscribe if you're going to watch at home if you can't make it. But, yeah, let's support these kids. Anybody else got anything?
That's about all I've got. Until next time.
Go Tigers.
Go Hawks.
Whooping.
Go Hornets.